We have Nancy Leonard with Leonard and Associates with us for the Attorney Spotlight. And I just wanted to say thank you real quick. Thank you for being with us.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So basically for this stream, we're going to go ahead and talk about her firm, how she got started, any advice she might have for aspiring attorneys and such, and just kind of go on about her life as an attorney. So without further ado, Nancy, if you would like to kind of introduce yourself, just give us some information on what your area of practice and your firm.
Sure, be happy to do that. So I've been in practice for quite a while, and I started out my practice working in-house. Let me mute my...
Sure, yeah.
That's not going to be good. Because if I do that, I think I mute the sound. But I started my practice quite a number of years ago working in-house for 3 large corporations. And the last corporation that I worked for was Nutrisystem, the weight loss company.
Okay.
And they were, at that time, the #1 weight loss company in the United States. And they were a franchised company. They had 500 corporate locations and 1,300 franchise locations around the United States. They also had international locations, and they had been around for about 20 years. They went into bankruptcy. And
oh, really?
They went into bankruptcy. And what you hear on the TV commercials for Nutrisystem is an internet-based weight loss program that evolved from the weight loss program that I was familiar with 20-some years ago. But when that bankruptcy happened, I decided that I no longer wanted to be anybody's employee, and I wanted to start my own practice. And so at that point, I started my own practice having no clients because my client was Nutrisystem. They were my employer.
Sure.
So I started, actually I had one client that came with me right from the start, and I didn't have any infrastructure in place. I didn't even have malpractice coverage right off the bat. That client is still my client. He's wonderful, and he was a Nutrisystem franchisee of 20 Nutrisystem centers, and so I represented him in those right off the bat, right initially. He was my first client. And he's an entrepreneur, so he's been in various ventures over the years and been a wonderful, wonderful client and friend. So that's how I got started initially. And of course, when I started 20-some years ago, we didn't have, practice management programs that were cloud-based like PracticePanther. But I've always been kind of a person, despite my age and despite being older, because words are not technological. Despite that, I have quite an interest in technology, and so I've done that from a very early time. And even years and years ago, had an internet presence and certainly used software to help my practice. And I've always enjoyed, learning new. And in fact, just as a lead-in to PracticePanther, when I was researching different cloud-based programs for practice management, I researched quite a number of them, and I tested out as a demo for a week or 2 weeks, various ones, probably about 10 different ones, and came to the conclusion that PracticePanther was the right one for me. And just to finish it, talking about me, and then we can go back to PracticePanther.
Sure, yeah.
So my practice evolved into a general business law, transactional. I don't go into court. I'm not a litigator, but general business law practice with a focus on franchise law, and that's a niche practice. There's not a lot of us in the country, and I represent primarily individuals who are looking to purchase a franchise to have, again, business ownership, similar to what I was looking for when I started my practice. And so I can relate to them because I'm a business owner as well. And and help them evaluate their legal documentation for the franchise and decide whether this is a good opportunity for them to invest in or not. Help them set up their entity as a corporation or a limited liability company. And if they're a brick and mortar business, to help them with the commercial lease for their business. When I was with Nutrisystem, their 500 corporate locations, I handled the commercial leases for the 500 locations. So that was another area that's sort of a niche practice. And as it is today, my firm represents quite a number of franchise systems nationwide. We handle their franchisees' leases for them, and we're recommended by the franchisor for their franchisees to use us for the leases. So we do a lot of that as well. It's kind of a natural corollary to being in the franchise world. The other side of the franchise piece is that we also represent businesses that want to expand by franchising the business. And so with that, we would be drafting their franchise documents. Franchise law is governed by the federal government, by the Federal Trade Commission, and certain states also have regulations. But we're very familiar with all of that, and we handle compliance with the federal government as well as those states, which includes preparing what's called a disclosure document, which is a very lengthy, detailed, very, very specific document for compliance, as well as the contract with their franchisees and so forth, and registration in states that require registration. So again, we do that nationwide, the franchise practice, and we are general business attorneys as well, and we handle that for our clients that are located in the greater Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area, which is where I'm based out of.
Awesome. So you were able to, yeah, I mean, you were able to find your niche, as you like to say, and it sounds like you expanded pretty well in that sector. So that's awesome. So I mean, as far as like when you first began your own practice, you were by yourself?
So at the very beginning, I was certainly on my own, and then shortly thereafter, I discovered that I needed some assistance, and so I did hire an attorney part-time initially. It is a challenge, to figure out, can I afford and feed another attorney enough to warrant the expense to me of hiring somebody full-time. So it worked out really well. This was a new mom. I'm a very big believer in supporting women, and
That's awesome.
so the woman that I hired, her children were very, very young, and she started working for me and had worked for me for over 14 years. So,
wow.
Yeah, she's terrific. And I've since hired other women that are stay-at-home moms, and they work remotely. And it works out really well because, again, with something like PracticePanther, everything's in the cloud.
Right,
and,
yeah.
And we use that in sync with Box.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, all the documents are in Box. They can retrieve them that way in the cloud, wherever they are. And I can as well, whether I'm, sitting at my desk in suburban Philly, or if I'm waiting for a plane to catch, or anywhere else in the country, or the world for that matter. So it's a great system. Yeah,
that's a really good point. So you guys are, I mean, you experience firsthand that you're able to access pretty much anything you need from anywhere, right? Like,
yeah.
And it can be you or any of your associates or employees at any time. So I'm sure that it helps the fluidity of your workflow, right? Like when you're, in your day-to-day practice, you find that having this cloud-based system actually does contribute more to the success of your firm. Would you say that?
I think it helps with productivity.
Yeah.
I think timekeeping with PracticePanther is really easy. Again, I evaluated a lot of different systems, and at one period of time, I did use one of your competitors. I don't know if you want me to say their name, but I did use a competitor that's sponsored by a lot of bar associations, and not only are they significantly more expensive, but that competitor also, I think, doesn't have some of the nice features, and they don't have the support that you have. When I call and need support, usually David Silverberg is the one that responds to me. I feel like it's like a personal tech support person.
Yeah.
And but he, always gets back to me or someone else if he's not
Mm-hmm.
available right away. And if my question can't be answered, they find out the answer, or if it's a feature that's not available, miraculously, you guys make it available in a short time. So I've been very pleased with it, and not only just the ability to keep time. I find and again with this competitive system, we had just doing the billing, the invoicing
Mm-hmm.
was so much more time consuming and taxing. But I love the fact with PracticePanther that a few different clicks and boom, any monies on retainer, held in trust are applied to the invoice. The invoice is emailed out with custom note in it of what I want it to say, and reminders are done also in a again custom note and in a time period that I want those reminders to go out. So I mean, you can't ask for better. That's as great and easy as it gets.
Of course, I'm happy to hear that you're happy.
Yeah, like it.
So,
I feel like I should be in sales, right?
yeah, so it's better than.
In the wrong field. I should be selling.
I know, right?
I'm a believer. I mean, I really like the system. I've been using it since April, and I've been very, very pleased with the improvements that have happened in that time period. I mean, one of the drawbacks I thought initially in April when I was signing on was that you didn't have what I thought was a very easy email integration system, that it was clunky. I use Outlook, and I think maybe it was better if you were using Gmail for your business email, but for Outlook users, it was pretty clunky. And you guys listened, and lo and behold, we have a great system now that is so easy and painless, and attachments get sent in with an email as well. And so I think you guys are really good at listening to your customers, and I think that's great.
Yeah, well, I mean, practicing law is, I'm sure, probably as hard as it gets. Like, you don't need any more headaches on our end, so we try to ease that as much as possible. But I wanted to go quickly back before practice management software, before you got really settled in, basically before you became really successful. You went through all of that, and I wanted to kind of share to anyone viewing who might be curious, how exactly would you recommend going about starting your own firm, like your own solo firm?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and I don't know that I have the answers to that. I mean, I did it. I did it very slowly because I didn't have. I have to tell you, I've done it twice.
Okay.
So the first time was 20-some years ago that I described right after Nutrisystem. At the beginning of January of 2012, I merged my practice with other attorneys, and we had a bigger firm, and that was when I had the experience with the other practice management software. And I left there in March, so at that point I started over again, basically.
Okay.
So the first time around where I started, I had never worked for a law firm. I had only worked as in-house counsel for 3 large corporations, and that's very different. I didn't need malpractice insurance. I didn't need to have an IOLTA trust account. I didn't need to have, operating. I didn't need any of those infrastructures that you need when you have your own firm, right?
Sure.
So I had to learn all of that, and that was really tough. And I didn't realize there are a lot of fabulous resources out there that I wish I had known about. Right from the beginning. I know that in the Pennsylvania Bar Association that I'm a member of, that there is a law practice management coordinator for the bar, free to bar members to utilize, and that she has resources, for example, with a list of all the practice management software out there. And American Bar Association has resources as well. There is a Pennsylvania Bar Solo and Small Firm Listserv, which is a great resource, like having a bigger firm for all areas of practice. And so there's a lot of resources. And American Bar has the Solo, it's called Solo Says. They have a listserv as well. And I'm sure that what my experience with the Pennsylvania Bar is like is probably true to most bars around the country. But there's some fabulous resources. There are law practice management people that you can hire privately to help you with all of that. I kind of learned by, doing a lot of research on my own and just kind of trial and error initially. Second time around, this past April or the end of March, I knew what I needed to do because I had done it before. I just wasn't 100% sure what. Is that a train?
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's a train that goes by here every so often, so
It's okay.
sorry
I
about
wasn't
that.
100% sure of what, you know, which systems I wanted to use. That's why I tried so many different ones out. But I knew very definitely what I was looking for. I knew I wanted email integration. I knew I wanted integration with QuickBooks. I knew that I needed credit card processing, and the fact that you integrate with LawPay. And, you know, it all came together for me, and it you know, I haven't looked back. It's nothing has gone wrong. It's just really been a great system for me.
Awesome.
And so I knew that. And as far as starting over, the second time was much harder because I had all these clients who came with me. And so I had a lot of work to do in addition to setting up a business. So I think if you're in that situation, it's a lot tougher because you have to juggling act. You have to juggle, you know, getting the work done for your clients that need it in a timely fashion versus setting up the business and the infrastructure all at the same time. So
you don't really have the room to like make those mistakes, right? Because you already have clients relying on you and stuff.
Well, you know, but you're not going to make as many mistakes because I've already done it. But you know, just even I mentioned setting up the bank account. So, you know, thank goodness the bank I use is open late at night. So I would be busy working all day with the clients, and then I'd run out in the evening, and I'd sit there with the manager of the bank, and I'd say, well, I need an IOLTA account and I need an operating account, and I'd just set it up and get Pennsylvania IOLTA clearance. And, you know, there's all these things. I, you know, apply for malpractice insurance, which takes a couple weeks to get through. And, you know, in the meantime, I'm working kind of, you know, with clients. Without, you know, so it was it's a lot of juggling. Is what initially the second time around. But it got done. And
I mean, I'm sure, you know.
Stayed up real quickly, and now I'm not thrilled with it. So actually, I'm getting a new website developed as we speak.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I want to absolutely go into the website in a little bit. But question, so when you were starting out at first, your first endeavor into being a solo practitioner, it sounds like you said you did a lot of research. Would you say that is probably one of the more important aspects of starting out on your own is to learn and make sure that you ask questions, you know, and try to find the right resources to use? Because I know a lot of people they're afraid to either ask for help, or they don't want to, you know, they don't want to risk making the mistakes, or, you know. So I'm wondering, would you tell people to, you know, you have Google and stuff like that. Do you think that that's a good tool, or maybe an underrated tool?
No, I mean, I think it's an awesome tool, and I think, you know, I wish 23 years ago, when I was starting initially, we had those resources, but you know, we really didn't.
Yeah.
The World Wide Web, as they called it, instead of the internet in those days, you know, it was relatively new.
Sure.
And so, you know, I've always been involved with computer and technology, and I love that. But you know, I really didn't have those resources, and having never worked for a law firm myself, I really had I didn't even know how to do timekeeping as an attorney. I never had to do that. Billable hours, you don't have to do that when you're in-house counsel. So, you know, it was a true learning curve. But, you know, now 20 years later, I certainly know how to do that.
Yeah.
But, and developed a lot of mechanisms, you know, and that brings up another point. One of the things that I was looking at, too, when I was looking at practice management was, you know, that certainly had the different types of timekeeping. I mean, I don't do contingency, but I do flat fee matters all the time, as well as hourly. And I think that's an important feature that, you know, when somebody's considering what they want to have for their software, they need to see whether it has all of the types of billing procedures, you know, timekeeping procedures that they do. You know, do you do flat fee matters, and if so, do you want to keep track of the hours? And if you do you want to show the hours or not show the hours? And I like the flexibility that PracticePanther offers on that. But
awesome.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It was definitely a challenge in April when trying to juggle everything and get it all done, and, you know, and still keep my clients happy and keep money coming in, you know, to the firm and work. And I have two attorneys, as I said, that work for me, and you know, it's we've got everything in place pretty much at this point. I am redoing my website.
Awesome.
But yeah, so
It's good. Well, it's good to hear. I'm happy that everything's working out, and you're very happy with your firm and your associates. And I think that this kind of transitions into what I was going to ask next. Is basically because I don't think people ask this question enough, especially when starting out on your own business. But how was it balancing work and your kind of personal life, like finding that good balance? Because of course being a business owner is basically an all 24/7 job. I mean, it never ends, right? So how, as a solo practitioner, were you able to kind of find that balance and basically not go crazy?
yeah, and that's a really great question. And I think for newer attorneys starting out, I think it is a very challenging. Even if you're working for a law firm, I think it's challenging that work-life balance, like how do you balance your personal life with your work life and keeping that in balance. And I think that's really challenging. I don't know that I have any great, words of wisdom on it, but I think that it's a really important thing to do and to prioritize in your life. And I have to tell you, but you're absolutely right. Certainly as a business owner, I'll come in and check emails that, I'm in front of the computer or on the iPad or wherever, at 10 o'clock at night and respond to them. And, I think it's also a sign of the times. I mean, 20-some years ago, people didn't expect instantaneous responses. Emails weren't as prevalent, and people didn't expect that, I'm going to get an answer. I'm going to have my document reviewed in 24 hours and get a response about it in that 24-hour period and have things done, in such a timely way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that created, I call and I'm sure I didn't coin the phrase, but the microwave society where everything has to be done instantly.
Yeah.
And so it created a different timeline for everything. And I think that because of that, today's world, it is really hard. I mean, everywhere we go, we have our phones, which have, our smartphones, which have everything on it. And, I have PracticePanther on it. I have Box on it. I have email on it. I have everything on it. So, I mean, I could be sitting in the movies, and if I'm bored, go do work. And I try not to do that. But it's really hard to separate yourself from work when it's so available in every possible way at any hour of the day, any time. And I think that's a real challenge that you have to work at it.
Yep.
You have to make a point of working at it, and it helps to. I have a particularly wonderful, understanding spouse, and I think that's really very.
It's pretty important to.
Yeah, I'm really lucky that way, and very supportive, of what I do and who I am. And so, he certainly understands that if I'm working and we can't have dinner at 7, and that might be delayed because of a meeting or call or whatever, he understands that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that that's really helpful to me. I don't know that everybody has that. It's important to have that balance.
Yeah, so I mean, do you when you get really caught up with something and something comes up and you have to take care of it right now, do you ever try to kind of make up for personal time that you might lose or anything like that? Do you try to allocate it differently, or do you just kind of roll with it? And
I don't know that you can make up for it. I mean, time is time, and once it's gone, it's gone.
True,
so
very true.
You can make up for
very
it.
True.
I certainly try to. Let's put it this way: when my husband's busy watching a football game or a baseball game, that's a great time for me to be working because I'm not interested in it. So if that's on the weekend and he's Sunday off watching with the guys, the Eagles play, and I can spend a couple hours working if I want to.
See, that's a good point though. That's what I mean. Finding those little, just trying to balance it and finding those times where you can where you can work here or you can kind of enjoy some personal time off here. And because as a business owner, it's never black and white. You don't go to work at 9 and leave at 5. This is your business. This is a constant thing, especially you were bringing up with the technology and the smartphones and stuff. Everything's instantaneous. Like you said, you get an email or something like that, and clients or people will expect very fast responses. You can't put this off till the next day or wait or something like that. So, but I think that's a very good point. Is trying to find little things. With the football game, you'll go and get some work done and stuff like that.
It's not my interest.
Yeah, of
We have
course.
things we do together. We have lots to do together.
Sure.
Basketball's one of them.
Yeah. So basically, going off of that, I wanted to know if any, what is the biggest time saver for, because obviously we're talking about it. Time is very important. It's very valuable. What for you is the biggest time saver when it comes to running your law firm?
Well, certainly technology.
Technology. Yeah.
In the broadest sense of it, I think that's the biggest time saver. I think having the ability to, look at emails, to look at, documents, to see things in anywhere that I am, whether I'm, out with a friend, I can still check my emails and see, wow, somebody needs me urgently. I need to call them back right away. And I have it in every aspect of the business practice. I have a voice over IP phone system that allows me to, make phone calls through the business line off my cell phone if I need to. And again, PracticePanther, of course, and Box, and all of those cloud-based types of programs out there allow, I think, everybody to practice law in a different way than we could 20 some years ago. And I think it's great. I think it's really terrific. I applaud it. And one of the things that I loved about PracticePanther and making the decision, which, how did I make that decision? I made it, part of it was because you had so many tutorials. And I think, again, I would sit, I know it sounds really geeky, but I would sit and look at my iPad in the evening, like at 10 o'clock at night, and watch a tutorial and learn how to do something on PracticePanther. To me, that was an easy way to learn. I don't need to bother you or have somebody, training me. You already have that set up. And you have it set up in small segments on each different aspect of the program. So it was great. I was really able to teach myself so much of using the program. So I think as far as time savers, the fact that I can, as I said, boom, 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 hit to get an invoice sent to a client is a huge time saver. I used to spend hours, sending invoices out.
Yeah.
And I did those by email, but, I would have to generate the invoice, then I'd have to download it to a PDF, and then I'd have to email it out and customize the email and so forth. And this has really been a huge time saver. I can get all of my invoices done in a very, very quick way.
Now it's just a couple clicks now.
It is. It's really great.
Pretty crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, this is, kind of changing gears, a more broad question here, but so going back to your firm, what when you began your firm, either first or second time, either, what was your original goal? What did you set out to accomplish?
Well, I think I alluded to it a little earlier, but I'm a very big proponent of helping women.
Okay.
And so part of my goal was to bring women on board to work with me that I felt, in a very supportive type of way that may have wanted to start part-time because they're with their kids at home and work up to maybe working full-time eventually. And so that's been that's been a very big goal of mine throughout. And mentoring, attorneys. This is a very niche area of law. And there aren't a lot of us who do it. It's franchise law. There's only a couple thousand attorneys in the country that are franchise law members of the American Bar Association franchise law section. And to put that in perspective, my understanding is the Los Angeles Trial Lawyers Association, just the trial lawyers in LA, are 4,000 attorneys. Well, franchise law bar of the ABA is only 2,000. So, and that's nationwide. So we're tiny practice. And within that practice, most are franchisor attorneys primarily because that's more lucrative. And within that, the majority are probably litigators, again, because that's more lucrative. So to have I'm a transactional attorney. I don't go into court. So primarily to work with franchisees or prospective franchisees and handle their review of their documents and handle the commercial leases for them. There's not a lot of us that do that. There's, very, very small number in the country. And so it's fun to teach that. And before I went to law school, I graduated from University of Pennsylvania, and I graduated in 3 years. And I took my 4th year, and I got my master's in education.
Wow.
And then went to law school. Yeah.
Impressive.
And I'm not to brag at all.
That's impressive, though. Seriously.
But I'm saying that really to let you know that I love teach. And
Yeah.
Because I have that background, and I'm not using it in any other way but to teach and mentor the attorneys that work for me, and I really love that. And I tell them that when I first hire them, I'm going to, train. I want you to come back and ask me questions because I really love that. I love helping them, and I love, being able to teach them. And likewise, I really enjoy working with my clients and helping them, with a very scary time in their life. When an individual is looking to invest in a franchise, that opportunity could cost them anywhere from $50,000 to over $1 million, depending on the opportunity. And even more than that. I mean, there are some that are, urgent care franchises, for example, could be several $1 million to set up. So, it's a huge investment of money, but it's also a huge investment of their time, of their skills, of, so emotionally, they get to the point where they're hiring me, they've narrowed it down to one opportunity they're looking at, and then, it's almost like buying a house. They're emotionally invested in it, but they're scared.
Right.
And so I think what we need to do and what we try to do with our clients is to kind of hold their hand through the process, make sure they understand everything about what they're entering into, and make them feel more confident in, what this step that they're taking, this leap of faith, basically, that they're taking this opportunity. And be realistic about it as well, and understand that nobody can tell them how much money they're going to make and so forth. So you asked me about goals. My goal is to help other people, both women, as far as my practice is concerned, and mentoring them, but also individuals that are jumping into kind of the deep end in a business that it's scary with the huge investment.
Well, it's great to hear because, here at PracticePanther, we are very, very big on helping our clients, or even not our clients, anyone really. That's what we do is, we try to help people run their firms, or we help them with any questions they might have about, like marketing, websites, running a business in general, anything. So it's great to hear that you as well set out to help and teach, and kind of spread the knowledge. And as a person, I find that fascinating.
And it's interesting you say that because I've actually taken a couple of your webinars on various things, marketing one and so forth. And, I think that is so unusual in a practice management, business to be offering, things that aren't necessarily promoting your business per se directly. And I think that's to be applauded.
Oh, yeah. It's like I said, whether, client or not client, we think it's important to, like I said, spread the knowledge and kind of just help everyone as much as we can with what we know. So, that's why I appreciate you doing the same in your field of practice. So it's pretty awesome. So, you now have your successful firm, and I just want to ask, what are your future plans for your business, if any?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and I don't know that I actually, I tell people it's always a good idea to have a business plan, to have a 5-year plan of where you want to take your business to, and I assume probably PracticePanther has that. I don't know that I've ever sat down and done that. I think that I love what I do, and I just enjoy every day of it, so I don't necessarily plan ahead. I'm not looking to grow the firm as far as size of attorneys. The firm that I had been with in that in-between period of time, they had a goal of, hiring an attorney every quarter if they could. That's certainly not what I'm after. I'm not looking to be a large firm. I really enjoy being a small firm that's a boutique that, works with our clients, knows who they are. And, so if I worked with Joe Smith, a year ago, and he calls me tomorrow, that I remember who he is and what he needs and can help him. I don't really know that I want to get to be a huge firm. That's just not my goal.
Yeah, that's important because some people might think, some aspiring solo practitioners might think that they need to, start with this business and grow it into like this worldwide massive organization to be successful, and that's not the case, right? Like you're finding plenty of happiness and success, but more importantly happiness, doing what you love and being a boutique firm. So I think that that's a very, very good point, that you don't have to be what most people would think you need to be successful, is all I'm saying. So
no, I don't think you do. I think success has a lot to do with it. And I think, I certainly financial success, but I also have a lot of success in knowing that I'm, helping people, that I'm helping the attorneys that work for me, that I enjoy what I do, that I go to work every day and love it. And, that there aren't a lot of people, and especially attorneys, that can say that. Most attorneys can say that.
Yeah, I'm sure. And that I think is worth its weight in gold, to say that you love going to work every day. I mean, especially attorneys who work so much. So, to actually love doing it and, not feel like you're wasting your time, or you're just, you're kind of running down a rabbit hole. I think that's important, and that should be something that's considered when people are starting their own firm and stuff. So
it was very interesting, because when I was in law school, I thought I was going to be in a different direction. I honestly thought, this is really kind of bizarre, but I thought I was going to do domestic relations work when I was in law school. Because again, I always knew I wanted to be helping women.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that I wanted to work with women, either women that were in abusive situations, or women going through a divorce and child custody issues and those kind of things. That's where I focused my law school classes and so forth. And then I actually got out and did that for a little while, very short time, and realized that's not really what I like doing. It's not really what I want to do, and it's not my best way to help someone. And so I kind of did some soul searching and evaluating of what were my strengths and what did I like. And I realized that my strengths are in negotiating and contracts. And that sounds really boring in theory, but it turns out it's what I love to do. And and helping people, evaluate opportunities that come to them, and talking to them. I love meeting clients every day. I love talking to them.
So not everything pans out exactly how you think it might, right? And even in your case, you want to help women, but you didn't go down the road of, specifically with like those kinds of with that area of practice, but you still helped women. You still did what you like doing, just in a different way. You helped the single mothers, some part-time, and especially one of them ended up working 14 years with you, which is awesome.
Single, but the stay-at-home mom.
Yeah, absolutely. The stay-at-home mom. So that's another important point, is that you don't have to know exactly what you want to do. I think that's just funny. Life works out that way. You just kind of, you end up and hopefully find something that you really enjoy doing, and that you can still do. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Before we go any further, I just wanted to kind of show your website here. Let me bring it up on screen. 1 second. Just wanted to show your website.
And again, it's evolving, as I mentioned. This one will be replaced probably within the next few weeks. It'll be the same domain, but it'll be with a different look.
Cool.
But there's a lot of very good blogs. There's videos on there about franchise law, about commercial leases, buying a business, selling a business, and startup businesses. There's information on that.
I love this right here. All the pertinent information. This is really cool. This is your firm overview. So and going on those blog posts, you have a 10.0 Avvo rating. That's
yes.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, that's impressive.
I answer a lot of questions on Avvo. I enjoy that.
That's very, very impressive. So you post daily to your blog?
Do I know? Well, first of all, As long as this site is still kind of just in a holding pattern, I'm not posting anything at the moment.
Okay.
But I've been posting. Usually, I try to post every couple weeks at the least. So weekly if I have time.
Okay.
Honestly, it's hard to juggle to have enough time in the day. But I love to write, so it's kind of a fun thing to do. I just kind of sometimes don't always think of the topics. Once I have a topic in my head, it comes right out. It's really easy to write, but it's coming up with the topic. But again, I'm subscribed to a bunch of different listservs, and so I'm pretty tapped into Google alerts for franchise law, commercial leases, and so forth. So I'm tapped into any news that happens in those areas, and I do tend to try to write about that. But I've written articles on, one of my blogs is on the top 10 grammar mistakes people make, and in a business, examples of that.
So it's not just related to your practice or like your area of law or anything like that, but you post relevant content, like the grammar mistakes and stuff like that, which I think is also important. And
I try.
Yeah. No, I think that that's what we do. We don't always post things that are necessarily about practice management software or anything like that, but information about running a business or things like that, tools that can help people that aren't just promoting your company or anything like that. I think it's important to show that you want to educate and help people learn, and not just sell yourself. So
right. And I post not only on my website, but then I also try to post it. It goes to it goes to LinkedIn, and it goes to Twitter, and it goes to my Facebook business page, and so forth.
So I also wanted to bring that up. So you are active on social media.
Yeah, I am.
And how?
I told you I'm technologically more advanced than a lot of lawyers are, and that are a lot younger than I am.
No, and that's what I'm saying. I think that's that's pretty impressive, considering that like you said, even really young lawyers, a lot of them, I think just lawyers in general, tend to not kind of consider technology one of their best tools, but things like social media and stuff like that. I mean, can you tell us how important you think social media is to the realm of law and and running your own firm?
I think today it's critical. I mean, I think any attorney that, not a new attorney necessarily, but any attorney that's going to be starting their own business, their own practice, needs to really understand that they need to have a strong presence on social media. That's critical. It's critical to Google finding you and their searches and their algorithms. Today, I think it's more about that than it is about your website. And I think it's also critical to having getting respect in the community, that whatever that target community is that you're trying to go after.
Mm-hmm.
I use Constant Contact as well to send out newsletters and updates on things that are happening in the firm. And I think that's another way to stay in touch with your clients. Tweeting about something that's happening in the practice is also another way, and posting on Facebook. And I think all of those things are important. I don't know that I'm the best at it by any means. I think I have a lot to learn, but I think that it's something that is a goal to go after. I think it's an important goal to go after.
Yeah, and I would agree. I think that doing your part to stay relevant in this new kind of universe that has been created through social media and the internet and stuff like that, staying relevant in there is kind of a job in and of itself. But I think it's important for lawyers, especially, to to bring that into their practice and bring it into running their firms and stuff like that, because you don't want to be left out. And I think you're missing a huge part of, interaction, or a huge part of potential business or anything like that if you kind of avoid social media and the internet altogether.
No question.
Yeah.
No question. In fact, it's funny, in law school in my day, I mean, I don't know what's today, obviously, in law school, but in my day in law school, marketing wasn't even talked about. This was viewed as a profession and not a business. And there are lawyers that I know that, granted they're not young, new lawyers, but there are definitely lawyers out there that believe that business should just come knocking on their door, that maybe they will go and talk at some civic event or some community event, and that's how they're going to get their clients. And, yes, that method does get some clients sometimes, but that's only one way to market your practice, and the practice is not just a profession.
Absolutely.
It's also a business. And I think that anybody who doesn't acknowledge that is doing themselves a huge disservice. We are a business, and it's no different than if you're selling frozen yogurt. You have, it happens to be a profession, but nonetheless, and so we have constraints in our marketing, and what we can and cannot say.
Mm-hmm.
And so that a frozen yogurt business wouldn't have. But nonetheless, we need to get the word out there. That frozen yogurt business, that frozen yogurt could be the best frozen yogurt in the country. But if they don't market themselves and advertise to people that they're open for business and maybe get people in the door, nobody's going to ever try it. No. Well, we need to get people in the door also, because nobody's going to know that you're the best if they don't come to you and try you out.
Yeah.
And I'm on Yelp. I'm on, Google Plus, and
Oh, so you're on all of them.
I try.
You're all over. That's good though. That's really good because like I said, a lot of people think that they can do without the social media, or they're just they refuse to necessarily get with the times, as some might say. But I definitely think that, especially with your own business and trying to find clients and stuff, it's really, really important that whether you agree with it or not, that you make sure that you are in that universe that I was talking about, because if not, the people that are in there are going to be looking at everyone else but you. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. It's a really important facet to getting a practice seen on the internet, getting some acknowledgement organically through Google. I think it's definitely an important facet of any new practice out there. Sure, you can't ignore it today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that was actually going to be one of my questions, but we kind of segued into that, which is perfect.
I'm sorry.
It's perfect. No. It was literally going to be my next question, and I'm glad we covered it because it's one of the more important questions for sure. Because
I would just add that any new practice out there, go to Google My Business and set up that your page through them, because that's so critical to Google finding you and to people finding you.
Yeah.
So that's a first step to definitely get that done.
Yeah. So would you say it's important for these new firms and stuff to kind of maybe watch some YouTube videos or something on even just the basics of marketing?
I don't know. I never have done that. It's interesting you mentioned that. I've never really actually done that. I've watched YouTube videos on how to set up the Google My Business page, how to set up a Facebook business page, those kinds of things. So very specific, not a broader. I bet there are YouTube videos on getting a law practice. I would imagine that there are. I never even thought to look at those.
No, I'm just saying in terms of, just in general, like paying mind to the marketing aspect of it, not just, I'm going to start my own firm, and where are my clients going to come from? But, they have to actively pursue that and make sure that they get clients through the door. So. And
I think it's also important to, I was thinking as you were saying that, somewhere along the line, when you're starting your own practice, you have to have a budget that that you can work within, because it costs money to set up the business.
Sure.
Like any business, right? There's startup costs, and getting the getting the website done, and getting malpractice insurance, and all of those things. It can cost quite a bit of money, and you can spend a lot on it. The website alone could be anywhere from $1,500 to $10,000, depending on who you go with, and or more. I mean, I think there's some FindLaw and lawyers.com that charge monthly. That a nice steep amount. So, and I'm not putting them down in any way. I'm just saying that they're the Rolls Royce of the web designers, and so I think. There's all price ranges, and you have to figure out what it is that you're interested in doing and what you can spend. And the same thing with the practice management software. You have to look at what what can you afford, and how do you want to approach it, and what's in your budget. Have a budget.
Awesome.
That's all part of it. Yeah, I think that's important.
Awesome. So yeah, I think we have covered a tremendous amount of information, a very important and helpful information, and I think we're coming to our time limit, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for being with us, Nancy. Like, it's awesome perspective from someone who owns their own firm. So
I want to just jump in 1 second, Julian.
Yeah, sure.
Is that okay? So I'm happy. Again, I like helping people, and I like teaching. So I'm very happy if there's anybody listening that is interested in contacting me directly with any questions that they have, or if they even want to call me. You put up I couldn't see it, but I assume you put up my website.
Yes.
So
that is right here.
Contact me through that, or my phone number is on the website. They can call me through that. And I'm really happy to speak with anybody. My email is my first initial last name, so it's nlenard@lenardandassociates.com. So anybody listening that wants to contact me and have questions about anything that we talked about, I'm really happy to answer them.
Awesome. Did you want to give your social media shout outs or anything like that?
Yeah, well, on Twitter I'm at Lenard Law, so LANARDLAW, very original. And the Facebook page is facebook.com/Lenard and Associates. And the LinkedIn, I think, is the same thing. I think it's linkedin.com/Lenard and Associates, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Good.
Yeah, but
cool.
You always can reach me directly through, email or calling me 215-392-0030, and I'm extension 101. Cool.
Well, there it is. Again, Nancy Lenard with Lenard and Associates. I hope everyone enjoyed our discussion here with her, and just wanted to extend a very, very big thank you once again. Really appreciate it for being here with us on Facebook Live for the Attorney Spotlight. So, Nancy, any last kind of words you want to throw out?
No, thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been a lot of fun.
Cool. Alrighty, well, we will speak again. And yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed. Thank you again, Nancy. You have a great day.
Thank you. You too, Julian.
Bye-bye.
Bye.